Howdy doody doody doody. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very good. I see that you've been kind of cheery today.
Yeah, been a little bit under the weather, but always excited to chat to my mates. So, again, we don't have Jeremy, so I keep saying he's going to be here next week. We're not going to say that anymore. We're just going to wait for him to be ready, and then he's going to come back. So, he's off doing some stuff, and yeah, he'll be back soon. That's all I'm going to say on that. So, how's things going over in Florida? Keeping warm?
Uh, so far, so good over here in Florida. It's getting warmer, and I'm like, wow. If I was in New York, I would have been still freezing my butt off. But you know what's funny? I've never said that phrase and not used the ASS.
You're
Uh,
getting Floridized,
yeah, well,
if that's a real word.
we've been doing all of these podcasts, so it's like it's kind of teaching me how to tone my vocabulary.
Wait until you catch up with us. You'll be saying the F word and the C word and all sorts. I mean, I don't use that, but it's an
What's the
Australian thing.
C word?
Well, the C word is no, I'm not going to say that. But, automatic. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I thought what we'd talk about tonight is what is the scary thing about when you go into a haunted location. Now, you will know all about this because when you were doing visits to Kings Park and stuff like that, although you would go with groups, but if you went into a corridor system by yourself, what to you was the creepy thing about it?
Well, that's the thing. Like when we go to these places, I usually don't go alone to especially abandoned places. And there's really I don't see any pros in investigating a location by yourself just because, you know,
Safety?
aside from safety, but it's always good to have somebody there just to validate what you're going through
Yeah.
because unfortunately today, even with cameras, with video cameras and everything you take and stuff, there's going to be somebody trying to bump you off and be like, oh, that's fake, all this and this and that. But, you're not really doing it for the advocation of somebody else, but it's for yourself. And if somebody is with you, they'd be like, did you see that? Oh, you see
Mm-hmm.
that? Oh shit, that's exciting to me. So
Yeah. I
but
mean,
for sure.
I'll give you a hint. A hint. There was this one time when we wanted to investigate this really haunted location here in Perth, the old Swanbourne Psychiatric Hospital. Now, we did go down there and have a walk around, and what was happening is there were some people over in the buildings on I think it was the northern side, something like that. Anyway, on one side of the complex, and they were actually shooting a film. So we went and had a word, and we said, "Look, can we sort of jump in, have a look through a couple of the buildings that are open and stuff like that?" And we had to sign our life away on disclaimers and
You gotta love that.
NDAs and things like that, which we actually realised were the same paperwork that all the extras for the film signed. So somewhere there's a film out there which we're all credited as extras in it, but I don't even know what the film was called because I wasn't paying any attention. But we got to go into this. We had this one building. There was about 4 or 5 of us, and we got to spend a bit of time in there. Now, the creepiest thing about it for me, because I think everybody was focusing on the ground floor, and I go, no, I'm going up on the top floor. So this is about as close as I got to being by myself in this particular location. And I was up on the top floor and walking down towards the end of the corridor. Now, there's something about being in a dark, creepy, abandoned building. And even though everybody's only a few steps away down the stairs and everything, by the time you've walked down that corridor, you are very aware of the fact that it is total pitch black behind you and there is nothing, you know what I mean? There's an eeriness about it. And then obviously when you start coming back the other way, back towards the steps, you get a very, very, very uneasy feeling like, is something following me? Is something just out of view? Am I being stalked? And it's that kind of feeling that I want to talk about tonight. So I showed you a couple of videos before we started recording this to talk about some of the stuff that we're going to talk about. Now, to give you an idea, what we are talking about is liminal spaces. Now, liminal meaning abandoned, or not necessarily abandoned, but nobody there. Places that would normally be packed full of people, and there's nobody there when you go there. So it's very weird. Now, an example for that is I used to work in a high rise building in the city, and I used to go into work every morning, and besides a few people that were in around the same sort of time as me, it was just us. So we were up to our floor, and going through a high rise building, which is usually full of hundreds, if not thousands of, oh, it is raining out there now, hundreds, if not thousands of people, and you're all by yourself. It's a very weird feeling. Now, to give you an example, right? There's this one day when I went in early, and it's yes, there are toilets involved, and I needed to go to the toilet. Now, there was only one room, and there's two cubicles and one little urinal thing in the men's section, and there was people in there already. Now, you first thing in the morning, you're gonna drop a disaster out, so you don't want to be in there with somebody else sharing that space, especially when they've already done that disaster, and you open that door and it's boof, hit you. So a lot of the levels are actually locked off until a certain time of the morning. So what I would do is I would go down the fire escape, because we would go between a couple of our levels through the fire escape rather than wait for the lifts, and you can go down to these next levels. So I went down to one of these other levels, which none of our building company was part of. So I don't know which companies were right there. But when you come out, it's pitch black. Only emergency lighting is on. And you're walking through this place, which is supposed to be so full of people, so full of life. And it is the creepiest thing. This was what, probably 6 or 7 years ago. So I think Walking Dead was still going back then. You can imagine what it's like going into a building and not knowing what's right around the corner. And because we like the stuff that we like, you sometimes do get a little bit of the creeps. Even though there's nothing paranormal going on there, there's just this eerie feeling about it. Now, went to the toilet, and I crap you not, I started hearing movement outside the door.
Brilliant choice of words.
Right? Yes. There was movement outside. You could hear moving, you could hear things getting back, but it was a slow and it was a quiet. It wasn't like, oh, the cleaners would come in to start cleaning or anything like that. It was creepy, like something was banging off the walls, and I'm like, well, yeah, you've suitably set me up so I can finish what I needed to get done. So you finish what you're doing, wash your hands, get ready. You got to open that door, and you don't know what's outside that door. So you come out, and there's nothing there. There's nobody there. But what the hell was making these noises? And then you work your way back to the fire escape, and up you go back. And when you come in to your own level, and there's a couple of people around, you're back to what you're used to. So it's all good. But it's just that knowledge that just a floor or two floors below you, it's like another world. And that's what brings us to our topic for tonight, isn't it?
So first, liminal spaces are transitional spaces that can be physical, emotional, or metaphorical.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's let's use your example of the corridor, especially let's say an airport. We all know that airports 24/7, a bunch of
Busy.
people,
Yep.
and even if it's not during a busy season, there's still a lot of people. So, just walking down this corridor and you're absolutely by yourself could, it is absolutely disorienting, to say the least. But yeah, one time I had a buddy, security guard, and I'm not gonna name the place because he still works there, just in case. You never know. People are self snitching a lot, on social media. I was interested to investigate a cemetery that is across the street from this mall. in Brooklyn. There's a couple, so it's okay. Um, so we were there during nighttime. The whole place is closed. He's the only security guard there, and we were inside, and it was so weird to be there. And at some point, he had to go off and do something, and then left us there. And then there was just this eerie, even like a pitch. Like, have you ever been in a place where it's so quiet that you hear like a beep?
I've been in a place that's that quiet you can actually hear the buzz of the fluorescent light tubes.
No, no, no. I mean, it wasn't even the fluorescent. It's like almost inside your ear. It's like
Oh, yes, I know
beep.
that
It's
noise.
like
Yes, I know that noise you're talking
beep.
about. Yep.
So it was that quiet, and it was like, I mean, I'm not gonna use the word scary for a lack of a better word.
Creepy.
It's creepy, definitely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But just going through that and then right away jump over to a cemetery, it just kind of amped up that night for sure.
Mm. No, I can imagine. I can imagine. Now, where I was going with that is I've always had this thing that, and I don't know if it's a dream or what, but if you're in a certain circumstance that could be considered dangerous or something like that, you know how everybody wants their safe place? I've always had this thing that you could go through a door, so long as you get that door shut before whatever else gets there. They could get the hand on the doorknob, but so long as that door shuts, as soon as they open it, no, I'm in my safe space now. And it's a few rooms, a few corridors, and then you can go out of a different room. Very much like Matrix 2, where they go into they can go into the back and then they're in those corridors and each door goes to a different place. It's very similar to that. And what happens is then you can open the door and you're back home and it's all good. Now, I thought it was just me, but apparently it's massive and there's a big internet thing. Some people obviously made videos on the same kind of thing. And when they posted them, everybody commented about that is such a familiar place. I'm sure I've been there. Now, these places have been dubbed the back rooms. Not part of our world. We don't know where they are, and it's endless corridors. They all look the same, and it's almost impossible to work your way out. You don't know how you get yourself out. People that find themselves in these corridors find their own way out, or not find their own way out. They just end up being out of them, and they don't know how they did it. So, my thing is, first of all, you're in a place that's so familiar, yet totally unknown. Every corridor looks the same, but you never find where you're looking for because it's just more corridors, it's more big rooms. Every room looks exactly the same. It's very unearthing because you don't know. It's not like you have a map to know where to go from A to B. You're just wandering aimlessly, and it has been likened to playing one of those walk around games where you walk through the corridors and things like that. And in fact, a lot of the terms for this are very much based off gamers putting their names on things because it ties in. Like, everybody's watched that film with Ryan Reynolds, the one where he's the non-playable character. I can't remember what they call it now, but it's a bloody good film. And even that show Gamer with Gerard Butler, where they're out shooting the crap out of each other, there are certain areas that you can't go beyond. Now, the saying is, for a game to render something up, it doesn't render the whole... you walk into a room and everything's there, right? For a game, because of the limited resources, what's in the distance is just a very blurry rendering. Everything that's close to you is there. So it's just what's around you that's actually real. Everything else is just no. As you get closer to these buildings, they come up in more detail. And then as you walk into them, that's when they get rendered up. So that's why they say it adds to the whole thing that our world is nothing more than a construct, an artificial thing, almost like a game. Have you ever thought about that?
Well, I have never thought about that particular thought until I saw The Matrix, because
Yeah.
it sounds very, very similar
Yes.
to it.
I'm
And,
probably tell you where they got that from as well. They probably got that from these urban legends because it's a lot like a lot of urban legends. They only became mainstream when the internet started coming in. So sort of the 80s and the 90s is where these things really started to get their legs. Before that, it's just, everybody hears their stories about the man with the head bashing on a stick on the car roof, and they all have their different versions depending on where they are in the world. So you
for
get
sure.
urban legends that way, but these things take on a whole other world once the internet started. So, yes, I
Mhm.
do think that's probably where they got a lot of this idea for the Matrix from.
Yeah, for sure. And with everything that you've showed me, it's just very interesting the thought that something like, I'm a gamer. So it has happened while, playing a video game that you kind of fall through a crack in the system.
Hmm.
And I'm sure that, all gamers know what I'm talking about. And it's either you just completely just keep on falling into nothingness, or you are in an area where it was meant to be inaccessible, but
Yeah.
you're there and you're stuck. So, when I had that kind of feeling, um, with the whole backroom experience, but in a dream. So, you showing me all of this stuff, that's why I was just so focused, because I'm like, I feel, there's like deja vu. And it's like, I feel like, wow, like
Mm.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
And that's the thing about this whole topic is that just about everybody has had their own experiences with the back rooms. They may not be all identical, but they are all very, 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 very similar. And anybody out there who's watching this in the comments, if you've had an experience in the back rooms, please let us know because we would love to know more about this because I do believe we are going to be doing a lot more shows on the back rooms. But that leads me to a slightly different version of the back rooms, and that's I do believe it was originally a Stephen King film called The Langoliers. Have you ever watched that? I actually think Gerard Butler was in that one as well. Could be wrong. But this one was shot in the 80s. Now, a lot of the concepts about this are very similar. It's about a bunch of people that go on a plane and it's flying at night from one American town to another. I can't remember what they were called, city to another city. And what happened was they were going to fly through an aurora, which is weird because the auroras are usually a lot higher than that. But for the sake of this film, they were flying through an aurora. And what happened was a lot of them were asleep. When they woke up, everybody else was gone. The plane was empty. The clothes were still on the seats. People who had a pacemaker, the pacemaker was on the seat, but they were gone. Luckily, the pilot was having a sleep at this time, otherwise, they would have been really screwed. So they were able to land, and I can't remember whether it was like, funny enough, if it was Denver or somewhere like that. I can't remember the name of it. But they landed at an airport, but they weren't getting any radio chatter through. So they landed, they got off and went to the airport itself. There's probably 7 or 8 people that were alive at this point, and it was deserted. So they tried eating the food. The food has all gone off, and they didn't know what's happened. Has there been some sort of a contagion? There's been something happened. They didn't know, but they were stuck in an airport all by themselves, which goes into what you were talking about earlier when you mentioned about an airport and how it's always so full of people. And this place was deserted. And then ultimately, the story behind this is not quite the same as the back rooms, but what it is was that when they went through the Aurora, they actually went out of phase with our time. They were about maybe a minute or 10 seconds or a minute out of phase with us, right? And the premise of this whole thing is that there is only so much space within the universe, right? What happened was this world was 10 minutes behind where we are now. Not 10 minutes in the past for us, 10 minutes behind, you know, it's that whole line going like that. It's always 10 minutes behind. So it's out of phase. It doesn't exist. What happened just the start of this conversation no longer exists. It never, it doesn't exist anymore. We're still continuing the conversation because we remember the past, but the past doesn't exist. Now, what happens is because of the limited space in the universe, that space has to be reclaimed so that the future can be laid out for us to travel into, if you know what I mean. Even though technically you never reach the future as well. So in this, the Langoliers are actually these, well, I consider them like giant bloody Pac-Man that are just eating everything. Eating the world, the ground, the sky, the buildings, the planes, everything. And then what happens is something else comes through, redoing it all. And they have to get this plane off the ground because they've realised that the only way they can get back is to go back through the auroras again, and hopefully it'll take them back and they'll be alive, So that's what they did, and then they realised somebody has to be awake to fly the plane through it. And of course, they disappear. They all have to be asleep to get through, so somebody has to be awake to fly the plane through it, and of course, then they will disappear. So anyway, that's where it leads. And anyway, they come back. I think it's LAX or somewhere like that anyway, and they land at this major airport, and they get out at the end, and they realise everything's still deserted. But everything is super fresh. The sandwiches taste awesome, the fruit tastes awesome. And then they realise what they've done is they've landed a few seconds in the future or a minute in the future, and they have to now wait for the present to catch them up. So they have to just basically, they pick a spot against a wall and they just wait there, and then suddenly people just start appearing, and then that's it. They're back in the normal, in the here and now. It's actually a pretty good premise, but the big scary thing about this film is not knowing what's going on, even though you're in a very familiar place, an airport, whatever, but it's not right. And this brings me back to something I think everybody has mentioned, and I've mentioned it before in this show, is have you ever had one of those mornings where you wake up and you know everything's just not quite right? You can't put your finger on it, but something's not quite right.
It's like a gut feeling, kind of, I would say like a spidey sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. I mean, especially for us that we go into certain locations that are deemed paranormal. Uh, you know, you mentioned that me going to Kings Park, and it was definitely one of those things that there's nobody there, but since you're walking through a space that a couple of decades ago it was just full of patients, very highly populated, because at one point, um, due to overpopulation, was one of the downfalls of Kings Park Psychiatric Center. So just being in a space just so dead, it really gives a eerie feeling when you're walking through those hallways. And then it's just everything's abandoned, falling, crumbling, and you just your mindset kind of just messes around with you. And it's pretty awesome. I mean, I'm just gonna say.
It is, and I mean, I can't for the life of me remember the name of the movie, but there's a movie that I watch, which is pretty much 100% The Back Rooms, but instead of it just being rooms, this was a whole world, and there was something about it. It was pretty good. Now, describing, I'm sure it's raining out there, but anyway, yeah, describing the back rooms, the yellow wallpaper, the crappy carpet, and just walking endlessly through rooms. If that's not eerie enough, how would you feel if you knew something was stalking you? You don't know what it is. There's just, you might catch a glimpse out of the corner of your eye, which we've all witnessed that movement from the corner of your eye. You never quite see what it is. And have you ever had that eerie feeling when you stop and you know there's something right behind you, but it's like Schrodinger's cat. It both exists and doesn't exist until you turn around and you see it. You know, I'm not going to look. I'm not going to look. It's not real. It's not real. But you can feel that behind you.
I mean, I'm sure everybody, especially growing up, has woken up to needing to use the bathroom, but the bathroom is always a hallway down away. And waking up at pitch black dark, you kind of have to scurry yourself because for some reason you always feel like there's somebody right behind you. But yeah, definitely that has happened to me plenty of times
I
for
used
sure. It's
I used
very
to have that.
uncomfortable.
I used to have that as a kid, where you sort of you're good, and you come out the toilet, and usually within 2 steps you're running back to get back in your bed, the safety of your bed. Now, as an old fart, it's just damn. It's 4:30. I've got to be up in half an hour. I'm just going to close my eyes and pretend I'm still asleep, and I'm going to fool my body into thinking I'm still asleep, so I can go to the toilet and then get back to bed and hope I hit the toilet and not something else. And then I'm going back into bed and I'm still asleep, and the alarm goes off anyway. So that's the new battle,
Oh,
unfortunately.
oh man. Yeah, yeah, I feel you. Sometimes, you just don't want to get up and be like, you know what? At this point, let me just concentrate on not having a wet dream.
You went there. Wow.
I mean, because come on, come on. Sometimes you just, you wake up needing to use the bathroom, but you don't want to get up. And then you're like, you know what? I'm just going to push through the night.
I've done that before where, yeah, I just don't want to get up. I'm just going to hold it. Shit, I got to go.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
just hope because sometimes when you get that feeling that you got to go and you ignore it while you're sleeping,
If that
you
toilet presents
you
itself, do not
eventually
go.
you eventually have a dream like that. You know what? Like, I've done a lot of research within dreams and stuff like that. And actually, I did research on what a corridor means in a dream,
Mm.
and it's something along the lines of uncertainty. And it just all falls within this back room um, experience. And especially having something chase you all around, it just kind of it's that hallway feeling all over again.
It is. And I think, like I said, we had this discussion earlier, and one of the scariest bits about The Shining, going back to Stephen King again, is those corridors and, well, those two creepy little girls. But you know what I mean? You just don't know what's around that corner. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what it is. You don't know what's behind you. You don't know what's in front of you. You don't know what you're walking to. You don't know what you're walking from. You don't know where you're walking to. You don't know where you're walking from, because you're just in this place where you could be potentially just walking in circles and you just got no idea because it's endless and endless. Now, a lot of people who have witnessed or say they've actually been to these rooms say that they reckon there's different levels and there are just miles and miles and miles. But how do we know they're not just walking around in a similar sort of little circle and it's only a tiny little place? You know?
you know you bringing up levels, I came across something about that the back rooms do have levels.
Yeah.
And apparently the last level is a crazy numbers. I would say it's like a million digits. So it's damn near infinite.
Mm. Like the universe.
There
You
you
know,
go.
is that what the is that what the back rooms are? Is that where the builders of the universe goes? Is that like the basement level of the universe? And the big thing about this as well is you've got no control over about when you fall into them. It's you know how we had this talk about portals and things like that to different dimensions, and I mean this could be, I guess, classed as like a separate dimension or a pocket dimension or whatever you want to call it. But you don't know you're about to hit one of these doorways until you hit it. Which brings me to the next point: is the massive number of missing people that happen, and yet they're never seen or heard from again. You know, no sightings of them, nothing. They've just disappeared. What if they've accidentally gone through a portal and ended up in the back rooms? Now, what I was saying about the back rooms being endless, yeah, there's no water there, there's no food there, no beds. You just keep walking until you drop.
You know what I'm trying to do right now?
Trying to get into the back rooms.
I am using the calculator on my phone to type in
Boobies?
the level that I was talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's enough space in my calculator. Okay. God damn. Billions. This
Yeah.
is apparently within I am missing. Oh crap. I'm sorry. I was looking at this and I'm like, oh wait a minute, that is 6 million something. But no,
No,
no. You have to
jeez, you have to scroll.
that's yeah, scroll on the calculator. So so apparently this level is the last level. And if you guys wanna, you know, Google it, they have this video on YouTube, and it's actually a never ending staircase going downwards. And this image, well, the title is so empty that looking at it directly for too long can make one begin to cry. It brings me to that mirror theory.
What, the mirror
When you have
universe?
two mirrors, yeah, when you have the two
Oh, and it
mirrors
just
facing
keeps.
each other,
Yes. Yep.
I don't know. Think let's, if there was a way to even access like a peephole into the back rooms, wouldn't the mirror theory be the perfect way to do so?
Well, yeah. Uh, but it defeats the purpose of the fact that there's a million, an infinite number of you in each of these mirrors as well. Because to look into the mirrors, you're going to be seen in the mirrors for the infinite thing. Because if you're off to the side, you're not going to get the effect that you're talking about.
What if I love these what ifs, right? What if that thing that you feel that is chasing you if you end up inside one of these back rooms is,
Yourself.
I reacted to a video not so long ago. There's a lot of, fake videos out there that
Mm.
people are, trying to trick themselves, at a mirror. But there was this one video that was a little disturbing that I gotta say, I don't even know how they did it.
I actually shared a video the other day on our WAPR page about mirrors, but when I looked at it, it was just like a Night Rider motorbike. It obviously changed the video on me, so
Huh.
there's
Well,
been two videos this week that's done that, and I don't know why.
so if I come across this video, I'm definitely going to send it to you because it's, so there's this girl trying on dresses for a wedding. And in the wedding place, they have the mirrors together. And you see the infinite reflection of her in the mirror. But
Yeah.
then there is one of hers, like one of her in the reflection that has a different facial expression than herself and all the rest. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like one of these weird smiles and all this and that. Mind you, the image of her behind that one, it's all regular. It's
Yeah.
just
Just the one
this
particular.
particular one.
Oh. Anyway, that's something for everybody to think about. I think it's time for us to go. But
Ugh, my God, I'm
oh
telling you,
no,
like
look,
this
there's going to be
backroom
more.
stuff.
There's going to be more. We're gonna dig deep into the back rooms, and we are going to come up with something very. Actually, before we do go, that's one of the things that we are going to do. I'm still trying to source a building that I can do this in without getting into trouble. it ties back. Well, it not directly ties back, but there's a very, very similar feeling to it about the elevator game. So I actually have the proper list of numbers here, just waiting. I'm trying to find a building that will allow me in there late at night to do this, and I haven't found one yet. Unfortunately, where I used to work doesn't have enough floors, and there's a lady that I know that is the manager of a hotel, and she said, well, you can come in and do this. I said, well, how many floors have you got? She goes, oh, we've got 6 floors. I said, you haven't got enough. So it's not going to work because we need so many floors for the elevator game to work. Now, the idea behind that is if you do that in the right order and then you open the doors and you walk out, you're in the other world. And there's nobody there except for something pretty bad. So,
what is the highest number?
I'm not telling you.
Not even the highest number, not the sequence of number, but
10.
what's the highest number?
10.
10?
Yeah.
Oh, over here in New York.
Oh, that's every building just about.
Over here in New York. Yeah. You'll definitely find that. Now, the whether or not you'll be alone in the elevator. That's something.
Well, this is the thing, right? That the big thing about the elevator game is you have to go through these floors in a specific level, but on a certain level, the rumor is that when the doors open, there'll be some kind of a female that's going to walk into the lift with you. You are not supposed to look at her. You are not supposed to talk to her. You just face the corner and finish the sequence. Because if you turn around and acknowledge her, she will rip you to shreds.
That is so messed up, because what if you're just doing it and, let's, fictional, let's think, of the elevator game as a fictional series game. And you're just doing it, everything's going good, and you just finish it, and all of a sudden, a normal woman just getting on the elevator.
Yeah. Well, that's apparently what she appears like. She appears like a normal person until you acknowledge her existence, and then you are screwed. See, me, if I am going to do it, I am going to do the elevator game, but when I reach that point, if somebody gets on, I'm just going to go, just going to look in the corner, and I'm just going to go, no, I'm not even going to, I'm just ding, ding, get through them all, because I'm not running that risk, And I know it's a load of crap, but it's that, what you said, what if, the what if of it all. And it comes from Japan originally, so they're pretty messed up with some of the stuff they have over there. In fact, if you look on YouTube, you will find, just type in the elevator game, and there are a few different number combinations. Well, I say the proper one, but the original one that's all based on, which is different in about 90% of the games now. So, yeah, you watch it and you see when they go out and have a walk around in that world, it's another liminal space. It's supposed to be crowded, full of people, the middle of the city, and it is deserted. Nobody there.
Which would be an amazing thing for everyone in the comment section to name movies that has these liminal spaces.
Just about every film, every creepy film will have some kind of a liminal space. I mean, you look like not even horror films, sci-fi. Just about every place does, They have the corridor, that long corridor that you walk down, or, I mean, what's it called? Dawn of the Dead, that zombie film. They're in a shopping center. There's 10 of them or something like that, and the zombies are all on the outside. It's a liminal space.
As far as zombies are concerned, I'm gonna have to say that the best backroom liminal space experience within a zombie movie would have to be 28 Days Later.
Yeah. There's a new one coming out soon as well. 28 years later, I think it is.
God damn.
Yeah. No, it's coming out this year.
You would hope that a zombie apocalypse won't last that long.
The trailer is, I think the trailer's already up. So it's worth checking out.
Oh yeah. I'm down.
But yeah, on that, I think it's time to go. So check out the back rooms. And I'm not talking about the back rooms in your house. I'm talking about you go and search. Again, before I go, When we went to Singapore, right? Singapore is like a different beast compared to here in Perth. Here in Perth, everything starts picking up from 7 o'clock in the morning, and the shops open usually between 8 and 9 o'clock, and then that's it, full on. When we were in Singapore, we would go over into Clark Quay, which is those like shopping centres and things there. It's deserted, absolutely deserted. Singapore doesn't start picking up until 11 o'clock in the morning. But at midnight, even on a weeknight, it's standing room only on the MRT, which is their public transport system. And we've done the walking through some of these, I mean, quite literally a liminal space. You get off the train and it's these deserted, this is in the middle of peak hour sort of time for them, these deserted corridors. And what they've done to get from one shopping centre to another, they've just got these passageways, and then they open out into a room, and you might see some, like we saw some breakdancers doing their thing over in one corner of one of these rooms. But then that was it. Nothing again for probably another 10 or 15 minutes. And that is creepy. Yeah, we had a direction where we were heading in, but that is exactly the same as what the back rooms are like, because we had an idea where we were going. We'd looked it up, but when we were walking, because we were underground sort of thing, we didn't have access to our phones because there was no signal. So we were just hoping we'd get there, because of course we didn't have a clue where we were going. I mean, we got there in the end, but it's the same sort of thing. It's a liminal space. So check them out. And we are going to go this time. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going and going and going.
That's just our thing.
Yeah.
It's just our thing.
So check out the back rooms, everybody. Take it easy.
Take it easy.